Tracking new weather impacts as we head into the weekend, including rain, snow, and wind. I'm ABC 10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods, and finally seeing a break from what has been a critically dry weather pattern, even into Southern California, where a new fire broke out on this Wednesday called the Hughes Fire. This is closer to I-5 near Castaic Lake, just north of Los Angeles. We've seen that fire grow from 500 acres when it started to over 9,000 acres. As you can see, the footage from earlier today, how quickly those flames were spreading. And unfortunately, the winds were helping to quickly spread that fire into areas that were having to evacuate on this Wednesday, and the fire danger remaining high. Here's a look at the current winds as we're tracking into this Wednesday evening. Wind gusts over 35 miles per hour in some areas, but over 60 miles per hour for places like Magic Mountain. Unfortunately, those winds will stay in place with a high wind warning in effect through Thursday evening, and our red flag warning also in place into our Friday morning now due to the critically dry conditions, the winds, and just the elevated risk of those fast moving fires through much of Southern California. But again, we are looking at a change in that weather pattern. Just want to briefly look at the recap here of where the fire season stands so far. You can see this year we've had over 240 fires with acres burned over 40,000. This is well above last year and the 5-year average. Last year we had a much better start to the water year. We saw a little bit more consistency from north to south throughout the state. Now, Northern California has seen a really good start to the water year, so the fire danger still remaining a bit lower simply because we have some wet fuel as opposed to Southern California, which has a lot of dry fuel. We saw those early month fires start. Palisades, Eaton, deadly, devastating fires. Here's a look at the quick update on that. 70% contained for the Palisades fire, and the Eaton fire remains 95% contained. Headlines, though, for the weekend, we've got showers in the forecast as well as windy weather. So we're planning for those changes ahead, and we are going to keep you posted on all the developments with these weekend weather changes, including our extended forecast on ABC 10 Plus. Make sure you have that downloaded wherever you stream for free. It's live, local, always on. We also have weather explainers, weather and climate specials. It's all there with our weather playlist. And again, we'll keep you posted on these weather changes. Speaking of which, we've had that high pressure ridge over us here, creating those offshore winds kind of attracted to that low that's been sitting over the Great Basin. We will start to see those winds subside somewhat heading into our Thursday and Friday. Still have those critically dry conditions until we start to see the chance for an increase in moisture as that what we call an inside slider starts to move our way. This will not only bring us that chance for showers, but also much cooler weather. We have been unseasonably warm through much of January. Not so much for overnight lows, which have been quite cold with patchy frost, but the afternoon highs with ample sunshine have been warming about 5 and in some places almost 10-15 degrees above average. Now we get this colder blast of air coming in for the weekend outlook. This will penetrate all the way through Southern California with, again, not only a chance for showers in the form of rain, but also snow for the Sierra. Then that's much needed as well. It's been quite some time since we've seen measurable rain. Downtown Sacramento, the last time we saw anything in the rain bucket was the first of the month. We saw 0.3 of an inch on January 3rd. After that, it has been dry on one of the wettest months of the year. Traditionally, you can see January usually accounts for almost for most of the rain that we see in any month. The other ones that fall in line will be February and December. So there's still plenty of time to catch up. It's just looking like climatologically we're going to be falling into a dry patch again for the beginning of February. There's always time to turn things around, but again, we're kind of closing the book on one of what should be the wettest months of the year. December, January, and February actually account for 50% of the rainfall that we see in an entire year. So dry January is not ideal. It's not critical, but again, we want to start to see things turn back around to what we saw in November and December, where we started off the water year. So hopeful here, and then everything kind of dried out. But with the fact that we saw November and December on the wetter side, that's really helped to keep the fire danger low in Northern California. The only bonus part of that is it allows all the resources to be deployed into Southern California, and we've seen that time and time again. Northern California firefighters helping to battle those fires down in Southern California. The 3 to 7 day weather hazards outlook, we are in a slight risk for high wind coming in through the foothills and the northern part of the state, but you'll notice that's not the case in Southern California. So again, since we've had moisture in the northern part of the state and we're anticipating to see some moisture associated with those winds, we'll keep that fire risk on the lower side. The winds come in overnight Friday through Saturday, mostly just off to the west of I-5 and through Northern California. Now, we will see a little pulse of that coming through the foothills heading into our Saturday evening, even Sunday morning forecast, but it will be accompanying some precipitation as well. Most of that precipitation actually will fall on the east side of the valley through the foothills, only amounting to about 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. So this isn't going to be a huge whopper of a storm, but it at least starts to bring us some moisture here in places that really need it. About 1 inch to 3 inches of snow possible for this year. That's not a ton. And we'll see heavier amounts actually fall south of Highway 50, mostly along 395 through the central and southern part of the Sierra, which have been missing out on some of the bigger storms that came through in November and December. Those storms, by the way, brought us well above average snowfall for the northern Sierra, which is now close to about 100% of average. This will help to just bring a little dusting for the Tahoe Basin on Saturday morning. But you can kind of see how that low just kind of goes up, around, hits us just off to the east, and then it slides through the southern part of the state Saturday overnight through Sunday. This is going to bring us a better chance of rain coming in through the central part of the state, all through the border for the coastal communities, inland areas, and then again along 395 for the central and southern Sierra, which needs some snow right now. They're at about 50% of average. Now, the long-term climate outlook, at least for the 8 to 14 day outlook here, which will take us through the first week of February, is calling for a likely warmer pattern setting up, likely cooler for the Pacific Northwest, and likely drier as well. So once we get through this storm system, it looks like we will once again head into a drier situation for the beginning of February. Likely wetter, though, through the Pacific Northwest. I do want to put out one little caveat, though. The future moisture showing us that little pulse of moisture coming in for the weekend outlook, and then we dry out. But there is a chance that we will see more of an atmosphere type of storm developing for the first day of February. But there is a lot of model inconsistency with this. The European model is the one that's saying, yes, we're going to bring in that storm track a little bit farther to the south here, where it will be favoring the Pacific Northwest, but that one particular storm potentially giving us that chance of rain on February 1st, whereas the GFS saying, no, it looks like we're going to stay dry. So this is pretty far out. I don't want to really go too deep into this outlook since we're, first of all, dealing with the storm system this weekend. But we will continue to monitor that because this would be really welcome news to bring back some rain and snow, at least for Northern California, to kick off the month of February after a very dry January. All right, highs in the 40s tomorrow for this year. Still dry with morning lows in the teens. We'll see morning lows in the 30s and 40s down low for the foothills, with highs still warming into the 60s. We're in the 60s to almost 70 in parts of the Bay Area, including Napa at 69 degrees. San Jose actually hitting 71. Gilroy up to 72. We're starting to see those dry conditions actually building as well through the South Bay Area. Highs will warm into the 60s through the Central Valley after morning lows in the 30s, with that patchy frost and fog once again plaguing much of the valley, with unfortunately some poor air quality that goes along with that as well. Here's a look at the mountain forecast for the next 5 days. We'll call for that chance of snow Saturday and Sunday. Highs will drop out of the 40s to near 50 into the 20s. By the weekend forecast, that's what I was talking about, that cool blast of air kind of moving in through the east side of the state. For the foothills, we'll see that slight chance of showers on Saturday. Otherwise, a fairly dry forecast for us, but highs are out of the 60s and into the 50s for the last weekend of January. For the coast, we'll look at highs in the 50s and 60s, dry but cooler for the weekend. I'll look at our extended forecast. We keep it in the 60s for Thursday and Friday. More clouds moving in for that Friday forecast. A bit breezy for our Saturday with the chance of showers, but mainly a cooler forecast for the valley. I think most of us are going to stay dry actually through this weekend forecast. The showers mainly on the east side of the valley. So if we see a sprinkle or two, that'll be about it, but no measurable rain in the outlook. And as far as that extended outlook right now, I'm going to call for dry conditions for the first weekend of February, but we'll keep an eye on the potential for a bigger weather system heading our way.